This is both horrifying and hilarious. I don't want to belittle a terrible situation with like what's going on at the border, but at the same time, when people get their comeuppance, especially political foes that I think are wrong about things, it is entertaining. That's exactly what's happening to not only New York City, who we've talked about a lot, but also to city of Chicago. A bunch of the border town, border states, like Texas and Florida, no secret, no surprise, and not new information, have been sending their illegal immigrants up to the cities and states that call themselves sanctuaries. What that means, if you don't know, is a city or state refusing to comply with federal immigration departments, ICE, whatever you want to call it. But now, the thing has gotten so bad that even the most woke of the woke, Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago, is saying enough is enough and this is not sustainable. Watch this and we will discuss the border again in more detail. Check it out.
To meet this demand, but we have reached a critical point in this mission that absent real significant intervention immediately, our local economies are not designed and built to respond to this type of crisis. We are literally building a system as we go along. I commend Mayor Johnston and Mayor.
Yeah, I don't know how bad we're supposed to feel for that guy. Remember, California, Chicago, New York, all sanctuary states and cities. I think Illinois is a sanctuary state as a whole, or it's just California that's the whole state, whereas there's other sanctuary cities. Now, first things first, being a quote-unquote sanctuary city and refusing to comply with federal authority is probably illegal on its face, and yet, we just allow it, and for the record, Republicans allowed it too when they were in power. But such is the niceties of political language. We are a sanctuary city where nobody is illegal, except for all of the people that are illegally coming to the city. And now, as a shock to no one, the best political stunt ever performed, which is Republican governors in border states shipping illegal immigrants to the sanctuary parts of the country, is now finally coming to fruition, in where the super liberal mayors and governors of those cities and states are finally saying enough is enough. We've seen Eric Adams in New York City talk about it a lot, and now we're finally seeing Brandon Johnson in Chicago talk about it. Brandon Johnson too, and not to go on a tirade about a tangent about Brandon Johnson. That guy scares me. He's a good-looking, good smile politician, like a very surfacey level, like it looks like you like the guy, which maybe you don't, but that's probably because you know the policies and you know how Chicago is and the trajectory that they're on. But just from an ordinary voter standpoint, he worries me because a lot of people, I think, would go, I really like that guy, without hearing any of his terrible ideas. But I digress. One of the people also making a splash in the silliness around the border and border policy is none other than Congresswoman AOC from New York City. I want you to watch this definitely hinged, reasonable, measured response to what's going on at the border. I'm not going to lie, I'm not sure how old this is, but I did pull this down in the same Twitter thread that had the Brandon Johnson plea to the federal government to freaking fix it. Watch this.
So often people want to say, why aren't you talking about the border crisis? Or why aren't you talking about it in this way? Well, we're talking about it. They just don't like how we're talking about it, because it's not a border crisis. It's an imperialism crisis. It's a climate crisis. It's a trade crisis. This is not a surge. These are children, and they are not insurgents, and we are not being invaded, which, by the way, is a white supremacist idea, philosophy.
Yeah, again, I don't know how seriously you're supposed to take the Instagram influencer from New York that also happens to get a vote in Congress. Wow. this is a climate issue. No, dude, it's people coming into the country illegally. Look, and I hate to beat the dead horse, but just imagine the country is your home. Would you let random people just come into your home? And let's just say you would let random people come into your home and they start screwing up the place because they're not assimilated with the culture, they don't care about any of the values, they don't participate in the American way of life. Then you would have the audacity to say it's a climate crisis? What? I don't know. Again, I don't know how to necessarily, how seriously to take the claims of one AOC, but geez, it is crazy to me how much influence she has over so many people. This is one of the, how do you say this delicately? This is one of the things that I think a lot of people look at AOC and wonder. And I'm gonna ruffle some feathers here because I think a lot of people may not like me saying this because, well, one, it's just objectively true, but some people have some strong opinions about this. AOC is an attractive woman. That's just true. You can disagree with her policies vehemently, and I do, but I also have eyeballs and can measure things based on relativity, especially to the average person in the country. AOC is an attractive person. If she wasn't, would anybody listen to her? My guess is probably not. If AOC was an ugly, middle-aged man, she would not have any pull in any sector, let alone Congress. She wouldn't have millions of Instagram followers. She wouldn't have any sort of platform whatsoever if she wasn't hot. And I'm sure I've angered many of you by saying that, but it's just objectively true whether you want to believe it or not.